portion of the criminal justice system
Hey y'all, so
designed
if you
to
can,
drive Nixon from office, to
if you're
void his
online and
reelection,
out there,
and to imprison his top aides.
And Nixon didn't understand
I
that.
thought I would go
No,
live
no.
What did he
because
think of?
this is live on
I mean,
Tucker
I'll tell you what
Carlson,
I
and you can
thought,
go to
and
YouTube
maybe
and go to
that's
make
what
sure
he
it's
thought.
the Tucker
Until I discovered these
Carlson
documents, I
show
thought of
and
Watergate
not
as
put
a
on there by
tragedy.
somebody else.
Let me
But
read you
this
the
is
definition of
live
tragedy.
right
Great
now
tragedy.
on YouTube, and
In
it's
Aristotle's book,
about all
he
the lies
defines the
since
ideal
Watergate.
tragic man
How
who's highly
Nixon
renowned
took,
and prosperous,
he
but no
went to
one
his
who is
grave not
preeminently
even knowing the
virtuous and
truth of
just,
things.
whose misfortune is brought upon him not by vice or depravity, but by some error of judgment or frailty. And that's Nixon. And then there's the interpretation of Shakespearean tragedy, which envisions a setting in which a moral order reacts violently and convulsively against certain infractions. From this reaction comes the calamity which befalls the hero, frequently way out of proportion to the infraction itself. And within this calamity, there is a dominating impression of waste. You could say that's
This is
Watergate
live
too.
right
And
now.
that's what I
When I
believed. I thought
checked
he
it,
should have resigned.
when I turned it on,
I believe that
there
the
was
Smoking
well
Gun
over
said
10,000 people watching
was
it.
properly
So
interpreted
I just
as
wanted
being
to
a part
pop
of the
on live
cover-up.
to
And
let
then
some
I
people
started
know that
discovering these
if
documents.
if you're able to turn this on and listen to it,
Picture
it's
myself
you can
sometimes
go to
as a
YouTube
monk,
and find
sitting
it.
up on a high
They're
top
live right
desk
now.
in a monastery in the Middle Ages
But
with a
basically,
candle here,
this is
going through
information
dusty
going all the way back
manuscripts and
to
discovering what we've been told is
going
the
back.
opposite
Thanks, Mick.
of what was
Going
written
back
down at the
to
time. The memos that I've uncovered
let me turn
are
it up.
nothing short of incredible. And
Basically,
what
this is just
distinguishes my
a.
work from Thornburg.
But did you ever speak to Nixon
So I
at
had
the
to
post office?
reconnect.
I
I
did
had
not.
to
I went out for his
turn it
groundbreaking.
up. So
I went out for his funeral. I decided it was better not to remind him of my role on his defense team. Now, remember, I'm just a staffer. I'm just a kid.
Right.
But he knew who I was. There's this one happy sequence where Jerry Ford gets my name wrong and Nixon corrects him in the cabinet room on my name. So I mean, that's a pretty proud moment. There's another segment in the cabinet room when we have the Republican leadership up, and Nixon it gets an odd feeling every once in a while, and he starts talking about these really bright lawyers
get this
who are on
set
the staff.
here so you guys
And
can
Jeff
see
Shepard
it.
in particular, it's just
If
he
it's
works so
bad
hard,
service on
and
my
he's so
end,
bright.
you guys
And he
can
goes
go
on
live
and
on Tucker
on
Carlson's
and Tom Korlogas,
channel.
recently passed
And
away. Great guy. Starts writing
there's
down
literally
this fake newspaper called Leader News.
over
And he's got a
10,000
picture. It
on
says,
there watching
Shepard's
it
star
live.
rises enormously. So he's got a handwritten shepherd with a crook and a sheep and the star. And it says, President praises Shepard 40 times. The cabinet is at risk. Shepard's going to get his chauffeured car, bigger office. I mean, and it was embarrassing, but it sure stoked my ego.
I bet it did. So, but Nixon, I mean, I didn't know Richard Nixon, but he did several interviews, famously with David Frost, but others, where this came up, and he seemed not very bitter about it, or not.
Well, but that's self-control.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things about Nixon, he's in the military, he's in the Navy, he goes to the front, Pacific, and he sets up a hamburger stand, all this kind of stuff. But he plays poker. And he comes home with $10,000 of winnings from poker that funds his first campaign.
Wow,
okay?
That's interesting.
Now, to be that good, you got to be able to read people, and you got to prevent people from reading you. And nobody writes about that. They don't understand. And for Nixon, it was self-control. So he says, I don't blame John Dean for doing what he did. The guy brought down the presidency. But he makes himself say that. Now, on his final speech on the morning where he's going to go out and get on the helicopter, he's announced the night before he's going to resign. He's saying goodbye to his staff. And I was there, pretty bitter because of that tape. But he says, you just can't be bitter. If you're bitter, if you return hatred, then you lose. And the hatred will consume you.
How true.
And at the time, I thought it was just babble. What do you say? But he was being sincere. He really believed that. A couple of the truths, if I may. Nixon believed the truth was going to come out, without question.
Wow.
When he would allude to his prosecution or exposure of Alger Hiss as a communist spy in 1946, 47, the statute had run on his being a communist. What botched Hiss up was his perjured testimony.
Yeah.
So Nixon would say, from then on, remember Alger Hiss. Anything you do, don't perjure yourself. And in one of the tapes he says, because then you got two problems. You got the original problem and you got the problem that you perjured yourself.
That's right.
So I know if people from the re-election committee had come in, which they didn't, and said, what do I do? He was, for God's sakes, don't lie.
Yeah.
That just digs you in deeper. He was told by John Dean after the break-in that nobody on the White House staff knew. Completely clean. They built their whole defense on that. Dean neglected to remind them about his meetings in the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
So they were. Nixon felt to the last day we could put out a statement saying, I'm not involved. And neither are my
So
two
basically,
top
guys,
lieutenants.
what I even went live for
But then
to
the
show
game
you is that you
changed,
can
and
go
Dean,
to
get out from under. He says, but there was a cover-up.
you can go
I know
live
there was a
to
cover-up
Tucker
because I was
Carlson. He's
running
live.
it.
They're live right now on
My word
YouTube.
against theirs. There's no taking
And
system with those guys.
This guy was
but you should
back
trust
with
me.
Nixon
I don't see
and
how you protect
Watergate,
yourself from that.
and
I mean,
he is
they were
been telling it for an
bleaching in the
hour.
press.
Truth,
and that's
truth,
my last
truth.
question, and it has to do with Nixon.
So
Not
if you're
just during
interested in
Watergate,
that
but
and
after
how
72
lies
election,
have
but
just
really for
been
the scope of
bred
this
all the
part,
way
going back to
down,
Hiss, in his case, which I
yeah,
may be answering my own
go
question, but
there to